My partner has a strong need for protection, isolation, and safety during COVID. I'm careful, but I need more social contact. He wants me to follow his self-imposed rules. We are in conflict about seeing friends and family. I feel demanded upon. That's where we're going to begin, Lou. Restricted and angry. We're going to start with that. And I was wondering if you have any tips on how to navigate that. Oh, I do. Essentially, what I would say is this. The first work is to get yourself back into a place of choicefulness and to work on the demanding piece, the piece of you that feels like you're being coerced or demanded, like that you don't have choice. So let's get back to, what do you see as your choices in this situation? But here's my one little refinement here. So I'm going to paint with broad strokes and then we can drill down. Okay.
Yeah.
He gets to say, here are my boundaries. He gets to say, my personal bubble looks like this. Yeah. I am willing to be exposed to this and not this. That's in his, that's his. He gets to say that. So he gets to say, I don't want to be around people who are unvaccinated. And I also don't want to be around people who are interacting with people who are unvaccinated. And here's the shift, though, that I would make in the way that you relate it. Therefore, dear Lou, if you interact with people who are unvaccinated, which is absolutely in your that's your boundaries, you get to decide for yourself what you are and aren't willing to do. And I'm your partner, then I want to hold it like this. I would say something like, you, sweetheart, go ahead and do whatever you like. Here's my request. If you hang out with somebody who is unvaccinated, I will need to isolate for 3 days or not be around you for a while, because that's my sense of looking after my personal safety. And just know that that's the choice that I'm going to make if you're doing this thing. And I'm asking that we be transparent and honest with one another so that I can navigate my level of exposure. Yeah. I don't want to change what you do or don't do, but I do want to really have a lot of choicefulness around what I am exposing myself to. So if you're going to do these things, I'm going to do these things. And I just want to let you know that. Yeah. Okay. Then Lou, you get to decide. Do I want to spend time with this person, or do I want to have more intimacy with my partner? In which case their boundary is XYZ. But when it's held like, I don't want to be exposed, and therefore, if you go and hang out with unvaccinated people, you need to go and isolate. Yeah. And I'm not coming from a place of personal responsibility for my own boundaries. This is where it becomes very tricky, and we begin feeling like, wait, who's telling who what to do and who's in charge of what? So the piece that is triggering for people around these conversations is the consciousness of coercion and control. Yeah. Because if your partner was saying, and if you could hold it differently, like even if he can't say it differently, you can hear it differently. So we can make changes on either end of the communication. But I'll be him for a moment. If he were to say something like, listen, I feel really vulnerable. I feel much more comfortable when I'm wearing blah, blah, blah masks, and I have these kinds of limits, and I have this kind of exposure, and I'm going to take responsibility for that. And you, honey, do whatever you like, but I want to let you know, if you make the following choices, I will isolate myself from you in the interim for my own safety, and I will miss you, but I don't want to get in the way of you making your own sovereign choices for yourself. But I also want to let you know what that's going to mean for our possibility of connectedness, so that you can make some discernments about that for yourself. Yeah. That would be honoring. You could then decide, oh, actually, it's not that important to me to not wear this mask. It's not that important to me. And you would feel like, even if you then went along with everything he was asking, you would have the experience of that being a gift that you're giving him and you. Exactly. Because you would be doing it for a different reason, which is to contribute to your collective well-being. Exactly. And the place where it gets toxic is when we go one up and coercive and controlling, and we tell other people what they should do and they have to do because we are right and they are wrong. Yeah. And what we kick up is a tremendous amount of resistance when we come with that consciousness. Exactly right. I am reacting exactly like a rebellious child. And so now I'm going to actually flip this on everyone on this call. So if we are now reacting as a rebellious child, we get to do that differently. I don't need to be a rebellious child anymore. I can find a way of being in that situation and saying something back, like, listen, it would make it a lot easier for me to negotiate these boundaries with you if you could speak for yourself and your own limits, and I feel like I still have full choicefulness in my limits and my boundaries. And I'm going to work on translating some things in my own mind, but I'll check them out with you to see if this is what you mean. But it's really important to me in a partnership that we're not coercing each other. Do you have that value or not? Do you share that value? I'd like us to find a different way of negotiating some of this that honors both of our freedom of choice and still maintains a lot of care for the interdependence that is inherent in our relationship. Can we find a way of holding interdependence differently together? Are you willing to play in that space with me?
Yeah.
I'm really open to making agreements where we both feel like we have choices and we're interdependent, but I'd love to play differently. So there are some ways you could play with that depending on the person. You can always stay in touch with your choicefulness regardless of how somebody else says it. You don't have to act out of the rebellious teenager, even though she might come up. I could be like, oh, honey, yes, this is just reminding you of being told what to do when you don't like that. That's okay. We've got this. Nobody can make us do anything we don't want to do. So we don't have to do this reactive thing that we want to do. And I want to honor your indignance because you're telling me about freedom of choice. So I want to honor that. But let's be skillful in the conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. You're welcome.